Hey, everybody, it's David Kemp, the host of the Highway to Health podcast series. Thank you for being here. Man, we've had some great conversations recently where we talk about some of the biggest and best innovations in the healthcare place to provide disruption and better access to healthcare, better outcomes for our patients. And we discuss the people, the technology, the processes that are being put in place to make these things a reality. And today is another example of that. We have Riccardo Butta from the Stevanato Group. He's the president of the Americas, here to talk about how the Stevanato Group over the past 70 years has evolved from a small glass manufacturer to an integrated turnkey platform, helping biotech companies, pharma companies go to market with new molecules and new solutions that are helping us address some of the biggest challenges of the world today. Riccardo, welcome to Highway to Health. Thank you for being here.
David, thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for the introduction and that bit of overview of the company. I look forward to the conversation.
Well, I can't thank you enough for being here, and this is going to be a lot of fun. Tell us a little bit about yourself, your background briefly, and then we'll get into the group here in just a minute.
Yes, as you said, I'm the president of the Americas region for Stevanato. I joined Stevanato at the beginning of 2022. I bring 30 years of experience in the medical device industry. Started out with engineering. I'm an engineer by education, so that is where I started. I went into manufacturing, R&D, ultimately ended up in a commercial role and then general management and the position that I have now. I'm located in San Jose, California, relocated here 2016, and this is where I am and will be for the near future. So again, thank you for the introduction, the opportunity to get going here.
Well, thanks for being here, and it sounds like a great company to be a part of. Being in San Jose isn't bad either, so I'm sure you're enjoying your time out there. But you touched on something. You come from an engineering background. Now you're in the commercial space. I bet having that background where you can understand the technicalities, the details of what you're doing helps you with your partners when having those discussions in a commercial setting.
True. Actually, is a very good catch there, if you like, in that when you look at the industry where we play is a science-based industry. There is a lot of engineering, there is a lot of knowledge, and the more you can bring that to customers, the better, right? That is where we bring value, and this always helped me in my career. And when I moved, you move from engineering to a commercial role, you always wonder, will I succeed or not? In reality, it was a very, very good move in that you immediately have credibility with your customers, with your interfaces, whether they are on the sourcing side, on the engineering side, on the R&D side, on the operation side. You bring that knowledge that is very, very important, and I think is a model that in the company we are working to replicate as much as possible. Again, to make sure that our conversations with customers and people in the industry are the most meaningful ones, right?
I think that's a really important piece to this whole topic, is especially in healthcare, right? Sales, business development is really about education in healthcare. How are you guys at the Stevanato Group implementing, this idea around education and knowledge and delivering that kind of experience to your partners and your customers?
Yeah, it's a good question. When you look at it, it's like I almost like to make the distinction between education and knowledge. Everyone has some level of education to some extent. What we really try to do is to bring our knowledge to our customers, and we do that in a couple of ways. Of course, you work to train and bring up to the right level the sales force, but we typically engage with customers early on in the life cycle of a molecule, of a drug, make sure that we have the engineers in front of them, the scientists in front of them, in front of our customers, and the work is on the technical side. It's not about selling, it's solving problems. And then from there, you go into what is the solution and how we can help with that solution. But also we always try to pair, even in the later phases of the opportunity life cycle, right? We pair the salespeople with engineers. We refer to them as the technical account managers. And there's always two people having the conversation so that you can address at the same time the technical aspects and the commercial aspects and everything that is in between. And you really work through at a much faster pace and you get to better results at the end.
And that seems to be a theme throughout, the Stevanato Group's model and approach is, first of all, being there at each step of the phase, but then providing speed and agility and accuracy really at every stage of your partnership. You guys have developed this turnkey platform that's, end to end in nature, which is providing a lot of agility. Talk to us about how important that flexibility is, and being an agile partner has to be a big part of your program, of your process to deliver the kind of impact that you need to your partners.
Yes, I think you touched on two different or slightly different points. One is the turnkey, the end-to-end engagement, very, very important. The other is, okay, how do we bring flexibility and agility to the system and to our partners, right? And when you look at it in terms of turnkey approach, you can look at it in a couple of dimensions. One is the turnkey in terms of our ability to cover the entire life cycle of a product going to market, of a drug going to market. And we engage early on with customers. As I said, we have labs in Boston, we have labs in Europe to help customers to work through the solution with us, putting problems on the table, going through simulations, modeling, testing, including testing of alternative solutions. Doesn't need to be always our own solution, right? To make sure that at the end you converge on something that is doable, is feasible, and at that point you can be much faster and agile in going to market, and you de-risk everything, right? That is a bit the concept of integration, bringing the engineering upstream and then working from there through the entire development cycle with our customers. The second level of integration is like going from the product to the process. At Stevanato, the strategic decision that was made years ago was to really be able to master both, to be a product company, a device company, but also have control on the process to manufacture these products. And that gives us a lot of control, right? And when you have control on the process, then you innovate faster, you are more efficient, you are faster, you lower your total cost, you lower the investments for your customers. That is the other element of the integration that we bring. And in terms of agility, flexibility, that is actually one of our strengths and how we are seen in the market. We are seen as a very agile partner, able to turn solutions and make those solutions real by moving away from what is a standard portfolio of products and components, and really trying to understand what the customer wants and working to adjust and to customize in a very flexible manner, right? And then I stop, but that also triggers innovation, because the moment you see a pattern with customers in terms of what they need, the problems they are trying to solve, we have the possibility to take that pattern and turn that into something new, something that is not there in the market yet, but something that creates value and gives the market a new solution. And again, the solution can be on the process side or on the product side, but ultimately something that pushes the envelope or pushes the agenda forward, right?
And when you talk about customization for your partners, give us some examples. Are you talking about like regionally different needs per region? Are you talking about volume and size, customization? What are some of the most common different areas that you have to be agile and flexible in to deliver, to the needs of what your partners need? What are the most common areas that you see differences in?
It's a bit of everything. You hinted to the regional setup. When you look at what we are doing, and by the way, that is why I'm in the company, right? The idea is to move away from a very rigid model where you have the entire market served from one region, going more into every single market, right? Going into US, going into Latin America, going into Asia. And that brings, by definition, it brings flexibility and agility because, first of all, you have multiple solutions you can pick from, but also you have redundancy in terms of having a backup, and so you sort of de-risk the supply chain and you build a more resilient setup. But also you can decide how to balance the mix between one region and the other, right? Many customers that we have are global customers, serving a global market, and they need to have those options in their portfolio so that they can be more agile, more responsive. At the end, being in the region means having a shorter supply chain. Shorter supply chain by definition is you can be more responsive to the end market. And of course, there are byproducts like total landed cost is lower, sustainability improves, but that is definitely an item of flexibility and ability to customize the solution for customers. It's true at product level, meaning because we control product process and solutions, we have the possibility to really tailor solutions for our customers and to come up with the right configuration. And it's about being able to do it, about being willing to do it, and we have both, right? We have that flexibility in our DNA to really follow customers and try to make sure that we have the optimal setup and the optimal product configuration for them. But if you look at it, another element of flexibility that we have introduced a couple of years ago, it started as an innovation element, but now is really giving a flexible solution to customers, is with our Easy Fill brand of products, ready to use products. And the way we bring flexibility to our customers is with that setup and that configuration, you can really work on smaller batches that are becoming more and more important for the market today. You can have faster changeovers. You have equipment that can handle different presentations. You have lower capex. You occupy less footprint, less space in the factories, and all of these things together. And of course, we are not alone. There are partners working with us in that effort. But all these elements are ultimately bringing a more agile, more flexible solution, in addition to quality and many other elements to customers and to the industry, right?
You know, I think that speaks to why this matters to the patient, you know, at the end of the day. When you control the process from end to end, you control the quality. And correct me if I'm wrong here, but quality translates to accuracy and safety for the patient.
Yeah, it's true. At the end, when you look at the way we want to be seen by the market, right? We are in the business of helping customers to preserve integrity of the drugs, right? From the manufacturing point to the consumption point. That is what we do. And with that, the first thing that comes to mind is a safety, of course, right? You want every therapy needs to be safe and effective, but first of all, you want to make sure that you preserve the drug and you have the right level of sterility and everything to deliver a safe product to patients. And that is linked one-to-one with our processes and the quality that we are able to drive by design in those processes and in the products that are there for manufacture there. So that is number one. And then, of course, with that taken care of, then you look into everything else. You look into the performance of the container. You look into the performance of the device. And, you know, more and more there are drugs out there that have special requirements, because you talk about biologics, you talk about protein-based, those drugs are sensitive to certain conditions. You want to protect them. And then you talk about vaccines, and you need to operate at lower temperatures for the drug to be stable. And so you need to take care of containment solutions that can work at those temperatures, right? And then you talk about drugs that are aggressive, and you need to make sure that the interaction with the container is reduced to the minimum possible, right? And we have solutions to take care of that. So that is where the knowledge, the experience, and the continued push for innovation come into play, and you see the output and the outcome of that effort, right?
Well, you mentioned vaccines, and that's kind of the elephant in the room here, you know, with the last 2.5 years being what it was. the speed at which we needed to get these new solutions, these new vaccines to market and to our populations was almost unprecedented in the modern healthcare space. The Stevanato Group had a big part in that, right? And tell us a little bit about how, how you partnered with some of these larger companies to help deliver these vaccines to really every region, but in a way that, was distributed quickly and effectively so that the populations could get, the necessary vaccines that was so needed at the time.
Yes, first of all, I must say, look, the entire industry came together 2020, 2021 to do something exceptional. It wasn't only about Stevanato, right? But Sure. It was everyone. And it's amazing what we managed to do as an industry together, right? But yes, I think Stevanato really demonstrated in that moment the concept of agility and flexibility. We turned on a dime, really, right? And we reorganized ourselves and we reprioritized things and we worked through all these challenges that you can imagine, people, supply chain, logistics, right, to right. support important customers and players in the vaccine space and enable them to go to market and treat people. It's not even going to market, but really delivering solution to treat people under a lot of pressure in terms of the volumes that were needed, right? The quantities, right. in terms of the reduced timeline that we needed to really support, and also in terms of global deployment, because if you remember back then, right, the idea wasn't just to serve US and forget about right. Europe and Asia. The idea was let's go and ramp and scale those things at lightning speed in all the regions at the same time. And so, for example, we went qualifying 4 different suppliers for glass, when in reality, typically you only work with 1 or 2, and we did that in a very, very quick way. Right? So that for me was a great example of what we mean with agility, flexibility. And I think our effort, first of all, great to know that we had solving that problem, right? But I think our effort was recognized to the point that this is in the news, is nothing confidential. We got a major investment from BARDA in US to bring up additional capacity and have that capacity available and ready to go, so that the country is prepared and ready for the next emergency. Hopefully it will never happen, but we are in a much better shape today, and we clearly are collaborating with the government in that respect.
We learned so much during that time, and you talked about how amazing it is to see everybody come together and the speed at which we were able to deliver in the healthcare space around a disease that was an unknown prior to the outbreak. What's your biggest takeaway from the COVID experience and in that era where we all had to come together and learn? If something like this were to happen into the future, what do you think we will take away from the last 2.5 years so that we're better prepared next time, if there is a next time?
Hopefully not, but well, many things. First of all, is I think you hinted to that, is the collaboration, meaning people moving away from the specific interest and trying really to come together to deliver a solution for a bigger cause. I think that seems like propaganda, but is real. That is what happened, and it demonstrates that you can do certain things that otherwise you wouldn't be able to, right? The importance of focusing on a given priority, because it gives you speed, right? And you don't waste your time left or right. But also the idea of challenging the status quo, right? Because we work in an industry that is highly regulated, and I get it, and is the right thing, right? But within that regulation, there is the possibility to find ways to do things in a different, with a different approach, to go faster, for example, or to go and scale up in multiple regions at the same time, or there are many things there. So I think those for me are the key learnings. And then different industries may have seen different things, but I think everyone, if you stay at that level on those concepts, everyone can witness the same, right?
You touched on something there that I think is important, and it's the idea of different perspectives and different ideas and looking at a challenge through a different lens. And you in your role now over the Americas are tasked with building out teams, resources here in the United States, which means bringing on people to the Stevanato Group from a different background, more diverse backgrounds than maybe what has been there in the past. What benefits does the Stevanato Group see through your focus on diversity there in the company?
Yeah, first of all, it's true. What you are saying is 100% right. When you look at our efforts to go into the regions, by definition, what that will do is to bring diversity to the company, right? And is an interesting exercise we are going through, because on one end you have a 70-year-old company with a well-established culture, right, which you want to preserve, and then you start bringing in people with a different mindset, different culture, different background. And that is seen at Stevanato as a value and an opportunity. And the opportunity is to really bring up a diversity, not only diverse because it's in a different region, and that comes by definition somewhat, but diverse because we have the opportunity with the need of hiring a certain pool of resources to really decide who we want to hire, in terms of gender, in terms of ethnicity, and so on and so forth. And we are leveraging that opportunity to our best. And I already see some of the results there. And for me, the value is in the different opinions, different angles, different perspectives of people, both in terms of local culture, but also people from different genders or so, right? And it's not only about the diversity, because diversity, you can have a diverse team, but then if you don't listen to these people and those opinions, you don't really get the value. Is going in with our ears open, not eyes open, ears open, and listening to these things and trying to get to the best possible compromise or integration of those different opinions. That is I think is something that we just started with. Of course, we started a few months back, but I already see some good signals, and this is a model that the company will take and then go and replicate in the different regions. So it should be another building block into our future solution, right? Absolutely,
I can see it, and it's aligned with some of the things that I've heard other executives talk about. How, as an executive, it's their job to hire the best and brightest, and then enable them, empower them to do the best work that they've done in their careers through training, through education, through instilling knowledge into those folks, and then letting them, be the valuable resource to the company that they were hired to be. And so that's great to hear that the Stevanato Group is believing in those things in the same way. So what's next for the Stevanato Group? You're here in the United States now. You're building up a presence in the Americas and building a great team that's a part of that. Where do you see the industry? Where do you see your team? If we were to look 5-10 years down the road, what do you see as coming up next?
Let me see what I can say without violating any confidential piece. No, but jokes aside, right? Look, we are building up a region almost from scratch, and that in itself is going to be a great initiative, right? It's not only about the infrastructure, the sites, capacity, capabilities. It's a lot about people. That is where I am putting a lot of focus. Is a lot about processes, making sure that the entire region will work efficiently and in coordination with corporate and everything. So, but when you look at the future, I think there is the potential for us here to be a big contributor to the growth of the company, because it's a very important market there are very strategic customers, we are going to have a great solution. So for me, this one is one of our growth pillars, right? When you look at the company as a whole, the US market and in general, the Americas market is going to be a pillar of the growth. The other thing we are looking at, we talked quite a bit about integration, right? And turnkey solutions. We started to invest a lot on the device side of the solution. It's not only about primary packaging anymore, it's about bringing also devices to the market and to our customers. That is an additional element. It's like bringing integration to the next step. And there is a big opportunity for us to be a player there with a compelling solution for customers, because again, because of the integration and the control we'll have on the system, not only on one or the other component. So that I'm very excited about. And the third piece, I hinted to it at a certain point, is innovation. Meaning yes, you can bring up capacity wherever you like, but we are investing a lot to innovate. We are investing a lot to turn the signals from our customers into solutions and trying to understand what is needed next, whether it's on the primary packaging side, on the process side, on the engineering side, on the device side, and that for me will be another major element for our growth. So again, no one has the crystal ball, but the market is growing at a good pace. We are doubling down with our investments in many directions, still maintaining our focus on the market, right? We don't want to go into 20 different markets. We know what is our market. And so it should be quite interesting and exciting for a few more years, at least.
Well, it seems like an exciting time. You know, we've on this podcast, we've talked about some exciting treatments and therapies that are providing personalized care and improving the outcomes of our patients. But without enabling those new innovative therapies and treatments and providing a go-to-market platform and partner, then a lot of times those treatments and therapies could go unknown, unused, and that experience and that outcome is left unimproved by the patient. Companies like the Stevanato Group play a big piece into connecting those dots and improving the process, speeding up the turnaround time, and putting these therapies into the hands of the providers and the patients in a timely manner and an accurate manner. So thank you for everything that you're doing. If there's one thing that you could leave our listeners with, maybe it's something you've touched on already, maybe it's something that we haven't talked about. If you could leave our listeners with one thing, what would that be?
Patience. At the end, everyone is here with that in mind, right? So if you look at it, we are an enabler for the pharma companies, biotech companies. We want to be a trusted partner there, but ultimately everyone should look at the patients and the population there, and that is what we do, and that is why we are here and we go to work every day, right? That for me is the most important thing. Well,
it's an inspiring story, the Stevanato Group, and I've enjoyed learning more about it. And I love when I hear companies like the Stevanato Group that have a patient focus, and you guys certainly do. So thank you for being here. And good luck to you guys the rest of the way.
Thank you very much. Thank you again for the opportunity, and I take the wishes. Thank you, David.
Thanks, Riccardo.
Bye.